The hush of a private screening room settles over a handful of close friends, film historians, and would-be biographers. A vintage 8mm projector rattles behind them, casting a jittery beam onto the canvas. It starts with a sun-bleached reel at Griffith Park. Jerry Lewis, barely 30, chasing a terrier in circles until his lanky legs give way and he collapses in feigned exhaustion, face split by that signature Cheshire grin. The crowd chuckles. Then the film burns out mid-frame, dissolving his laugh into a sudden flare of white. A light clicks on at the rear. There stands Jerry in his twilight years, silver cane in one hand, thick script pages in the other. Lines crease his cheeks like Broadway curtains stuck half open. He surveys the room, one eyebrow arched as if daring anyone to flinch, and finally rasps. Funny thing about secrets, they're the only jokes you never tell in front of a paying audience. He taps the cane twice. Fresh footage floods the screen. Black and white portraits of Hollywood icons, each image annotated by unseen typewriter clacks, each face carrying its own unreadable cipher. As strings swell on the scratchy soundtrack, the air turns electric. Everyone senses they are crossing the threshold from confetti-bright myth into a hallway of unfinished confessions. Outside, Klieg lights from a neighboring soundstage strobe through a curtain crack, tracing silhouettes of Jerry's hulking shadow across the canvas. Each strobing flash seems to peel another layer off the legend: the prankster, the philanthropist, the tyrant, the wounded son. Then the projector sputters, changes reels on its own, and lands on a still photo. Jerry cheek to cheek with an unidentified woman in a tuxedo. A gasp rustles through the theater. Jerry's lips curl into the hint of a secret punchline. "Buckle up," he mutters. "This one's been hiding behind my laughter for 70 years. And the real show begins. Hollywood's golden age glimmered like a million-watt chandelier, yet every crystal prism mirrored a private investigator's lens or a gossip columnist's poison pen. Studio czars enforced morality clauses harsher than Sunday sermons. Pinkerton detectives tailed ingenues from rehearsal halls to back-alley diners, and fan magazine editors swapped rumors like ration stamps. In that unblinking glare, America's most anarchic clown, Jerry Lewis, nursed a romance so plutonic it could have scorched 2 careers to cinders with a single headline. For the public, he was a tornado of pratfalls and pie-splattered bravado. But off stage, he guarded a love story as delicate as wet ink under blotting paper. Who was the brilliant closeted actress who shared late-night sandwiches and existential musings with him in rented beach cottages? How did they construct an emotional fallout shelter sturdy enough to withstand gossip's atom bomb? Why did their bond endure, quiet, unpublicized, even as Jerry's marriages buckled, his telethon empire ballooned, and his heart staggered beneath decades of adrenaline and painkillers? The answers hide in smoky jazz basements, in studio bungalows sterilized of paperwork, and in the cadence of one cryptic interview after another. "She was tougher than any man I met," Jerry once mused, "and braver than Hollywood ever allowed her to be." To weigh that claim, to feel its weight, you must first rewind the reel to Newark's immigrant tenements, where a skinny, restless boy learned the first rule of survival: if the audience is laughing, they can't hear you cry. Newark, New Jersey, 1931. Backstage at Lowe's State Theater, 5-year-old Jerry Levitch stands on an orange crate so a tailor can shorten his knickerbockers. Outside, trolley bells clang and garment factory whistles shriek. But inside, vaudeville throbs like a second heartbeat. His father Danny, Crazy Danny Levitch, rehearses a tumbling routine, while his mother Rachel skims sheet music at an upright piano. When the stage manager yells places, Jerry sprints to the wings, palms sweating, heart thrumming like tap shoes on hardwood. He belts a Depression-era ballad, tiny voice cracking on the high notes, and the audience explodes. That applause is oxygen. Jerry inhales it, certain he will suffocate without another hit. Through adolescence, he refines a frenetic lip-sync act, timing each eyebrow twitch to the brass accents of big band records. He plays nights in smoke-choked clubs where the beer bottles rattle whenever a freight train rattles by. Often he earns nothing but a meatloaf sandwich and a taxi voucher, yet he treasures the anonymous laughter more than any allowance. Each laugh is proof. He exists. Summer 1946, the Glass Hat Club. Manhattan. Dean Martin, all cool vowels and half-lidded gaze, croons, "You belong to me." In the back, Jerry, hired for intermission gags, juggles salt shakers and day-old roles. An ad-libbed bit of slapstick collides with Dean's ballad. The crowd erupts, and something cosmic ignites. Within months, the duo is triple booked. Copacabana at midnight, network radio after dark, NBC television rehearsals at dawn. They hijack talk show sofas, hit parade charts and front-page headlines. Their first film, My Friend Irma, 1949, costs $775,000 and earns 5 times that in weeks. Paramount's brass print money on their faces, lunchboxes, comic books, even Martin and Lewis cufflinks. But partnership is a crucible. Dean's laissez-faire cool clashes with Jerry's hurricane perfectionism. Jerry demands 18 takes. Dean nails it in 3 and heads for the golf course. By 1956, resentment simmers hotter than footlights. When they split mid-contract, mid-tour, tour promoters sue for breach. Fans mail tear-stained letters. Yet backstage, Jerry feels relief. The cage door has swung open. Paramount gambles $10 million on a 30-year-old director who's never shouted action. The bet pays off. Lewis's The Bellboy, 1960, turns a silent stooge wandering Miami Beach into a meditation on alienation that still makes popcorn fly. The Ladies' Man constructs a 2-story warren of dollhouse bedrooms, Hollywood's largest indoor set to date, so Jerry can ricochet like a pinball through heartbreaks and hijinks. During shooting, a frustrated cinematographer complains they can't check focus until dailies. Jerry sketches a solution on a napkin, a closed-circuit camera feeding directly to a monitor. Hours later, engineers rig the first video assist. 6 decades on, Spielberg, Scorsese, and sitcom directors alike call it indispensable. Critics back home scoff, juvenile, shrill, vainglorious. But across the Atlantic, France rolls out the red carpet. Cahiers du Cinéma compares Jerry to Keaton crossed with Picasso. Paris theaters run Le Professeur Folding in midnight marathons where film students jot notes between belly laughs. Jerry, once mocked in English, begins reading his reviews in French. Labor Day, 1966. Television viewers tune in expecting barbecues and ball games, but find Jerry Lewis pacing a Las Vegas soundstage for 22 relentless hours. He cajoles, weeps, sings, flops to the floor in mock exhaustion, all to raise money for children battling muscular dystrophy. Year after year, celebrities queue for on-air handshakes. Corporate donors chase on-screen gratitude. By the late 70s, he's lugged more than $1 billion across the finish line. But activism magnifies scrutiny. Disability rights advocates argue the telethon frames kids as objects of pity. Insiders grumble about Jerry's volcanic tirades over miscued graphics. He fires a cameraman for sneezing on air, then shells out tuition for the man's daughter the same night. Paradox clings to him like vapor. Simultaneously, prescription opioids line his dressing room vanity. Painkillers for a spinal injury sustained in a pratfall 30 years earlier. "I can't outrun the pain," he tells a confidant, "so I run faster than the clock." Patty Palmer, raven-haired big band singer, meets Jerry backstage at the Copacabana in 1944. He proposes before the orchestra finishes its second set. They honeymoon in a borrowed Chevy, driving Route 66, while Jerry rehearses jokes between tumbleweed towns. For decades, Patty plays the dignified hostess, posing for Life magazine Christmas spreads beside multicolored bicycles, labeled with each son's name. But tabloid photogs soon trail Jerry from set to set. First with Marilyn Monroe at a Palm Springs pool, then Marlene Dietrich in a Berlin piano bar. He shrugs off rumors on talk shows. "I love everybody, baby." But Patty's patience erodes grain by grain. When divorce arrives, it is volcanic. Court filings cite infidelity, gambling binges, helicopter parenting, turned hurricane control. The settlement guts Jerry's liquid assets. More devastating is the silence from his sons. One by one, they drift, nursing wounds no punchline can salve. Years later, Jerry's will excludes them entirely, igniting headline wars that eclipse his obituary. Early 1953, Stage 14, Paramount. Jerry wanders off a soundstage during a lighting reset and collides with an actress rehearsing Shakespearean verse under her breath. Her laugh, low, conspiratorial, freezes him in place. She is a leading lady with box office clout, rumored liaisons with costume designers, and a contract writer demanding men's tailored suits for downtime. Studio gossips call her impossible, code for doesn't flirt back. She and Jerry strike an unlikely electricity, jokes traded for literary quotations, sarcasm tempered by unexpected vulnerability. Meetings occur in rented beach cottages after midnight. She brings imported cigarettes. He brings deli sandwiches and a reel-to-reel recorder to capture waves for a future movie soundtrack. Once they stroll Griffith Park at dawn, discussing the existentialists Sartre and Camus. Another time, they attend a private costume ball, she in tuxedo and silk top hat, he in chaplain's tramp garb, and pretend not to know each other for the cameras. Risk shadows every encounter. Fan magazines might spin a single candid kiss into scandal. Worse, the Hays Code enforcers could blacklist her permanently. Jerry vows to keep her secret even from his closest pals. Decades later, he maintains that vow, offering only riddles. She could turn a cigarette into a symphony. Her name shaped like a lightning bolt. Historians parse the clues, Stanwyck's staccato, Dietrich's drawl, Bankhead's thunder, but the puzzle remains unsolved. On the set of The King of Comedy, 1982, director Martin Scorsese marvels as Lewis, playing sardonic talk show host Jerry Langford, channels decades of fame fatigue into icy restraint. Robert De Niro's manic Rupert Pupkin taunts Lewis between takes, but Jerry never breaks character. Crew members sense life, imitating art. Behind the curtain, health woes mount. Double knee surgeries, steroid-induced weight swings, prednisone mood spirals. Still, he churns out projects, guest spots on Wise Guy and Law & Order, a Broadway revival of Damn Yankees, even a short-lived talk show where he interviews rising comics who owe him their hyperkinetic DNA. Enter Sandra Pitnick, ballerina turned flight attendant, radiant and soft-spoken. She ministers to his injuries with ice packs and candor. "You don't have to be on," she tells him. "You already exist." They marry on a breezy February afternoon aboard a Miami yacht. Jerry weeps harder than he did at his mother's funeral. With Sandra, he discovers, perhaps for the first time, that quiet is survivable. Las Vegas, 2017. The city moves at neon speed, but inside Jerry's Spanish-style villa, time stiffens. A daughter's piano, arpeggios drift down hallways decorated with French Film Awards and Telethon plaques. Jerry sleeps in a recliner, oxygen line taped to a nose bruised by decades of pratfall breakages. At dawn, he wakes, scribbles a note to Sandra, "See you after rehearsal," and drifts off again, this time for good. His funeral is invitation only. Comedians, French diplomats, MDA families holding sepia snapshots of children now grown. Outside, reporters shout about the disinherited sons. Inside, a tape of Jerry and Dean's last reunion duet plays, the two voices braiding through static and forgiveness. Icons rarely fit back into flesh and blood molds once they transcend. Lewis, the maestro of manic elasticity, built comic grammar that generations mime. Jim Carrey's rubber face, Robin Williams' velocity, Eddie Murphy's multi-character bravado. More subtle is his legacy of empathy. The secret relationship, unverified yet palpable, whispers through modern Hollywood like a cautionary hymn. It reminds queer performers still wrestling with glass closets that even in the 1950s, love found covert corners. And it reminds straight allies that solidarity is sometimes forged in whispered promises, not rainbow parades. That dual heritage, technical genius and emotional stewardship, cements Jerry Lewis not merely as a clown, but as a full-spectrum human whose laughter masked and revealed in equal measure. Picture a rooftop banquet at the old Chateau Marmont circa 1956. The city below hums a lullaby of Studebaker engines and rooftop pool splashes. Jerry, tuxedo untied, balances on the parapet, arms windmilling for comedic effect. The actress, tuxedo tailored sharper than his, grabs his lapels and yanks him to safety. "You're too valuable to fall," she teases. "So are you," he answers. They share a cigarette. One filter, two breaths, before cameramen clatter up the stairs. In a single practiced motion, they separate. He pratfalls into a chaise. She vanishes behind French doors. Flashbulbs pop, capturing nothing of consequence, missing everything that matters. The night folds into rumor, then myth, then legend. Legacy is not a tidy ledger, it's a circus ledger, scrawled in grease paint, red ink, and neon. On one side, Jerry Lewis's fortune of laughter spans 7 decades, box office mega hits, late-night reruns, comic relief homages, and every child who ever slipped on a banana peel for a chuckle. On the other side, gather darker debts, marriages cracked by infidelity, sons estranged by emotional drought, co-stars wounded by volcanic temper tantrums, activists irked by pity pageantry telethons, and in a separate safety deposit box, never itemized on any balance sheet, rests the clandestine love he shared with a woman shackled by the era's homophobia. That hidden romance expands his mythos beyond slapstick fame or humanitarian heroics. It sharpens our picture of a man who knew laughter was camouflage and tenderness a liability. It reminds queer performers still navigating backroom whispers that even in the most censorious decade of American cinema, love carved out secret rooms lit by cigarette tips and trust. So weigh his contradictions carefully, inventor and addict, jester and engineer, provocateur and protector. Understand that greatness in show business is seldom symmetrical. It is a high-wire act strung between Klieg lights and quicksand, between standing ovations and sleepless guilt. Jerry Lewis trod that wire for 71 relentless years, juggling genius, ego, compassion, and chaos without ever dropping his trademark laugh. And when those lights finally dimmed on August 20th, 2017, the world discovered an uncomfortable truth. A man can raise billions for sick children, yet fail his own sons. He can incinerate tabloids with one wink, yet guard a lover's secret for half a century. He can revolutionize filmmaking while his spine crumbles vertebra by vertebra. That contradiction is not a flaw in the portrait. It is the portrait. So let the reel spin out to its tail. Let the projector lamp fade, the film flap against the gate, and the scent of overheated celluloid curl through the dark. Somewhere behind us, or perhaps still overhead, Jerry's voice crackles like lost radio static. The funniest joke is the one that scares you to death. And you tell it anyway. The screen is blank now, but the echo lingers. Half laugh, half lament, inviting us to decide which parts of his truth we dare to carry forward, and which secrets history will shelter in silence. Still unspoken, still alive.